is a country the size of England on the northern coast of South America. It borders Brazil, Venezuela and Suriname, and is the only English-speaking country in South America. Guyana's coast is 2 meters below sea level. Dutch technology was incorporated, and a seawall with a canal system created rich land for agriculture. 95% of Guyana's 800,000 people live on the coastal belt. Georgetown is the largest city. Guyana was first settled by the Dutch and then the British, who made it a sugarcane plantation colony. Until abolition in 1838, slaves were brought as workers from West Africa. After abolition, indentured laborers were brought from India to work the plantations. These two features of the plantation system, slavery and indenture, created the population of modern-day Guyana, divided between two major races. People from the coast never settled in the vast hinterland. The interior of Guyana, comprising extensive rainforest and savannas, are home to 9 indigenous tribes. 40,000 Amerindians live in villages scattered throughout the interior. For centuries we practiced subsistence horticulture, hunting, fishing and some animal husbandry. Recently, Amerindians who have the skills and knowledge of the area have become part of the labor force for extractive industries, such as gold and diamond mining and forestry. Multinational companies have been given large concessions for these industries. Many of these concessions are located near or on our land, resulting in conflicts of land rights as well as health and social disturbances. Barama is a Malaysian South Korean-owned company, harvesting trees for plywood production. Their concession covers an area half the size of Belgium, 1.7 million hectares. The financial return to Guyana from sales is almost nothing. The concession overlaps the land of 1,200 Amerindians. People from these communities feel they're foreigners in their own land. The Omai Gold Mine is located along the Omai and Essequibo rivers. The Canadian owners of the mine began industrial gold production in 1993. The Omai Gold Mine is one of the largest in South America. The mine covers an area of 30 square kilometers. The Canadians have ownership of 95% of the mine's output. The Guyana government owns 5%. The mine is in production 24 hours a day, extracting about 16,000 tons of rock per day. The rock is crushed and cyanide, which attracts heavy metals, is used to remove the gold from the crushed rock. 1 ton of crushed rock yields 2 grams of gold. In the past 2 years of operation, the mine has produced 500,000 ounces of gold. The waste material with cyanide is stored in a reservoir called a tailings pond. On 19 August 1995, the dam of the reservoir containing the waste material breached, sending millions of liters of sludge laced with cyanide into the Omai and Essequibo river system. It took over 3 days to stop the flow of chemical waste.
When the prophet Moses struck the rock, out came water. When Omai struck the rock, we got death. Yeah!
We never use that dirty color water to bathe. We never use it to drink. Why? Just to give Omai the preference of operating. We must be told this water at the world news. Condemning this water.
I cannot take that color water even though I boil it and drink it. It's hard. It's very, very hard.
The Guyanese government declared a 150-kilometer area of the Essequibo River a disaster area. The 5,000 people living along the river were told not to use the water for drinking, bathing and animals. Clean water had to be brought into the whole area. After 10 days of testing, the ban was lifted.
Yesterday morning on the radio we heard that it was very, they gave us guidelines which we should live by. Don't bathe in the river, don't eat the fish, don't use the water for drinking purposes. And this morning in the news we heard that it was safe. My question is, what difference does 24 hours make?
The Ministry of Health now says that you could drink the water, right? But would you drink the water?
No, as for my opinion, I wouldn't drink that for next month or half. I don't believe so. If the minister wanted, he could come and drink that for us, and I go after him.
I feel that, it's Omai should really pack and leave. Leave. They shouldn't come back here at all. If their intention is to use cyanide, it means that they'll have to leave. And if the government doesn't intend to get them out, it means that we, the people, will have to come and get Omai out from this country.
We had the Jonestown disaster in 1978, where, as you may recall, over 900 people perished in a collective suicide act, where they were fed cyanide, Kool-Aid laced with cyanide, and I think most people in the world know of the Jonestown event. So when we discuss the question of the dumping of millions of liters of cyanide-laced slurry into our main waterway like the Essequibo, Guyanese are doubly traumatized. We're traumatized by the event itself, and we are traumatized in terms of what it triggers. It triggers the Jonestown memory. And we must bear this in mind when we are considering the way in which this matter has been greeted by the population. The Essequibo is no ordinary river. It is the mistress of rivers. And I don't believe that Guyanese will have anything like the same relation to that river as we've had from time immemorial as a result of Omai's activities. As I said, that is not something on which we can put a price, but it is something, again, for which the Guyanese will not forgive this company.
You have to realize that this type of failure doesn't occur. This is not normal. What went wrong, we don't know.
Let's see the specifications to which reservoirs or retaining structures of this nature are normally built in, say, Canada and United States. And let's see if those specifications were adapted in Guyana. I doubt it very much whether those specifications that would be acceptable to Canada were applied here.
What happens when you go back on stream?
When we will go back on stream, we will take all the proper steps that it won't happen again.
So were those steps not taken initially?
Yes, they were taken initially, but something went wrong, and we have experts that are looking at the situation, and if we have to take other steps, we will do it.
After the government told the people that the water was safe, President Jagan visited the area to calm the citizens.
The credibility of this company went down because they have given undertakings, especially from the last breakage we had in May, that everything will be in place, will be put in place correctly. And then this disaster occurred not too long after, so that many people, even though they may be giving correct facts, people have lost confidence in the company's words.
Are you here as a concerned president, or are you representing the government as a shareholder of Omai Gold Mines Limited?
Now, the press has informed us that Omai has the temerity to tell us they're going to throw another discharge. Another discharge is into our rivers. As time goes by and they see it fit to do so. Well, then it is cause for concern, because if you're going to have injections of small doses of poison, well, eventually we'll all die.
People, of course, say there have been no human deaths so far. A commission of inquiry will have to establish that. Omai is attempting to tell us that no fish have died, when we know, in fact, there have been nightly burials of fish. Mass burials of fish have taken place at Omai. I understand there are certain workers who receive extra pay for this rather ghoulish activity. And apart from that, they have been burning the carcasses of dead animals because of we have received reports of the terrible stench coming out of the site. No one is mentioning the dumping of the heavy metals that have come with the slurry. The copper that has come, the cyanide compounds that are in the riverbed. So far they've been testing water. But as far as I know, no serious testing of the riverbed has really begun. No core samples have been taken. No systematic testing of what is actually down there. They're telling us that the fish is safe to eat. We believe none of it.
The heavy metals are very low. We have ore with almost no heavy metal like copper and zinc and iron. So the heavy metal are really low, and so there's no danger for those metals to accumulate in the sediment.
There was copper, zinc, and iron in the spill, in addition to cyanide. The readings that we have are all Omai readings, suggesting that the levels of these three metals, the levels are not really danger levels at all. They're well below minimum standards.
The cyanide leaches out heavy metals, does it not?
It can leach heavy metal, but the heavy metal first they have to be present. So if there's no heavy metal, there's no leach of heavy metal.
So there's no heavy metal in the sediment in the Escobar River?
There is some traces of heavy metals, and with the indication that we have, the level are really very, very low, almost non-detectable.
No samples have yet been taken from the bed of the river, and I say yet because in terms of the post-mortem activities and analysis that needs to be done, that is an aspect that is the government's concern. And so they will see to what extent in the saprolite clay that may have settled at the bottom of the river and in pockets on the side of the river, the extent to which you have the presence of not only cyanide but other minerals as well.
Industrial accident can happen. We're going to make sure that it won't happen again.
In the face of the president declaring the Omai event an environmental disaster zone, and in the face of the National Assembly unanimously endorsing the president's call and declaration, we find it intolerable and arrogant and unacceptable that the Omai company and its officials continue to talk about an industrial accident. They may be doing this for purposes of their own that have to do with their own insurance. But the fact of the matter is, we regard it as a piece of arrogance and as a contempt for the sovereignty of the country. And this has been, to my mind, one of the most unsavory features of the way in which Omai has conducted its affairs. They have come in and established their operation, and to all intents and purposes have created a state within a state.
I think that we used to think of development as a passive process. When we say that we have lots of riches to be exploited, I think we in Guyana had too much of a passive attitude to it. I think we now have to be aware that we have to be more active in that process of development.
Various Amerindian organizations, as well as other non-government organizations, formed the National Committee for the Defense Against Omai. They picketed the Omai offices and Parliament. Their actions helped to force the Parliament to establish a commission of inquiry to investigate all aspects of the Omai disaster. The Parliament ordered Omai closed until the inquiry and an environmental audit were completed.
Spillage was not the first of its kind. There were other spillage, and we said that quite openly in a press release that we do not trust the company. We are concerned now for the well-being of Amerindians. We need to know what the people are saying out there. We need to show them that we are there supporting them, and I think this is what this is the direction that we're going to go from now on.
A lot of our own men, or Amerindian men, work. They are the cheap labor force of these big entities, and we are not so sure how they are being protected, and we fear for their lives as well.
What will happen to the people who've been working at Omai during the spillage? Are those people, you know, have they been checked for, you know, have they been medically examined is one of the questions that we are asking, and we are concerned for their health as well.
All in all, I never had a medical test for any kind of drugs or kind of misuse of any chemical in the area up to this date.
I would put it this way, that they really don't have respect for Guyanese workers.
I don't feel those people treat us as, you know, kind of human beings.
Our men going out to work with the logging concessions or the gold mining industries have had an impact on our own communities too in another way, because the men go out and seasonally they are not there to cut farms for their families. Therefore, the women have to fend for themselves and their children in their absence, and that has caused some disruption in the communities. A lot of these guys go for these jobs with the timber and mining companies, and they get lots of money, work for lots of money. But their own families within the village systems have not been able to receive the money. The village itself doesn't benefit from it, because we do have like tax systems. You pay village tax and all of that. And some communities like $20 for the tax. And if you really want to seriously finance any developmental projects in your own communities, that is not adequate. So I am saying that although a lot of money is circulating among many of our men, it doesn't come back into the community, nor to their children, nor to their wives. As a matter of fact, in some instances, they get paid, they come to Georgetown or they go to bars and drink it out, and they go into St. Cuthbert's maybe half drunk. Their wives have to find money for them to get back to their jobs.
The effects of environmental damage in the Guyana Shield also has its consequences for Europe and North America. Organizations there are seeking solutions and establishing support for sustainable development.
The Guyana Shield is a unique region in the world. It's one of the last pristine rainforest areas which is left in this earth, on this earth. It's very important for the stabilization of the world's climate, because it's part of the larger Amazon system, which has, as many scientists now agree upon, a very important function for the temperature of the world's climate. It's one of the last untouched reserves of biological diversity, which, as we all know now, it can be extremely important for human health because of new medicines which may be found from rainforest areas. There are still functioning original cultures, human cultures there, which have the knowledge of this biological diversity. From a European point of view, we will profit, of course, from a stable world climate. We will profit from these products, from the biological diversity, and also because we, in our history, have destroyed so much of our own natural heritage that I think we should now do everything we can to help this part of the world to develop in such a way that these extremely important values will be protected and preserved.
We realize that we cannot have that development the way we want it, sustainable development, protecting our environment, protecting biodiversity, protecting the Amerindian, unless we have assistance to do it, or we stop paying our debts. If we stop paying our debts, then a whole ton of bricks will drop on our heads. The international community will stop financing Guyana's development.
We think that the kind of development which is now taking place, as exemplified also by the incident of the Omai Mine, is not sustainable and will destroy in a too short period the resources which the countries need to develop sustainably in order to have also sustainable income. What we think is very important, that these countries have some time to think about and to discuss with all parties concerned what sustainable development in their context means. But since they also need foreign exchange at this very moment, you have to find a system where there is both income for the necessary imports, but at the same time there is some time to really discuss and agree upon sustainable development. We think that in a way of international cooperation, also the European community and the European citizens should contribute through, for example, a trust fund to give some income to countries like Guyana and Suriname, to give them time to really look at what sustainable development would mean in their countries.
Guyana at the moment lacks the indigenous capacity even to assess the extent of the damage that has been done. We are talking about an environmental audit, and we are inviting international organizations, we're inviting foreign governments to come to Guyana's aid and come to our aid at once.
How soon are you hoping to go back on stream? The first step is to secure the tailing pond, and after that it will depend on how long it takes to build the second tailing pond. So with the finding that we'll have with the first pond, we'll be able to design the dam of the second pond, and after that we'll be able to go back in production. What we think actually that it's going to take 3 months.
But not because we find ourselves in the conditions of economic deprivation and underdevelopment that we find ourselves in, that countries must be treated with the kind of contempt and the kind of arrogance that we are being treated by companies like Omai. That the Guyanese people are not in a mood to tolerate it. They are not in a mood to tolerate gold extraction that will result in cyanide leaching into our water table and cyanide disposal into our rivers. That if this is the price of development, if poison is the price of development, then we reject it.